complete test corrections, do the worksheet, attend this tutorial, retest, and still make the exact same mistake? As teachers, that can be frustrating because we know the goal of retesting is not just to give students another chance at points. The goal is to give them another chance to learn. But sometimes the process between the original test and the retest becomes more about completion than understanding. Students check boxes. They correct the missed problems. They turn in the assignment. But they may still not understand why they missed the question in the first place. That's where I believe tools like Edpuzzle can help us rethink the reteach and retest process. In many secondary math classrooms, retesting begins with really good intentions. We want students to know that one assessment does not define them. We want them to build confidence, correct misconceptions, and show growth. But if the reteach process is not intentional, students may walk into the retest with the same misunderstandings they had before. For example, in Algebra 1, a student may miss a problem about slope and y-intercept. They might correct the problem on paper, but that does not always mean they understand the difference between the rate of change and the starting value. They may be able to copy the correct answer, but still struggle with a problem that looks slightly different on the retest. That's the difference between review and a reteach. Review reminds students of something that was already taught. Reteaching helps students rebuild understanding when the original learning didn't stick. Review might sound like, here's what we already learned. Reteaching sounds more like, let's figure out where your thinking broke down and rebuild it from there. That distinction matters. A strong reteach process should help students answer 3 important questions. Where did my thinking break down? What do I need to understand differently? And how can I practice that skill before I try again? This is where Edpuzzle can become more than just a video tool. It can become a structured reteach platform. Edpuzzle allows teachers to take short instructional videos, embed questions, notes, checks for understanding, and feedback directly into the lesson. Students are not just watching a video from the beginning to the end. They have to pause, think, respond, and reflect as they go. And that active engagement is important. Hattie and Timperlake's research on feedback explains that effective feedback helps students understand where they are going, how they are doing, and what they need to do next. In math, that kind of feedback is critical because students do not just need to know that the answer is wrong. They need to know what part of their thinking needs to change. Ding, Feng, and Shen also found that question-embedded instructional videos can improve learning performance by requiring students to interact with the content. Their study focused on college students in a flipped classroom setting, not secondary math specifically, but the principle connects well to reteaching. Students are more likely to process information when they have to pause and respond during the lesson. Codinger, McLaughlin, and Heffernan studied 7th grade students using Assessments, a different online tutoring system. Their work wasn't specifically about Edpuzzle, but it supports a similar idea. Digital platforms are more effective when they combine assessment, feedback, and instructional support. That's the goal here. Edpuzzle is not powerful just because it's technology. It's powerful when the teacher designs the lessons with purpose. So what does an effective Edpuzzle reteach lesson look like? First, start with the data. Look at the assessment and identify the specific standard or misconception students missed. Do not try to reteach the entire unit in one video. Choose one focused skill. For example, maybe students struggled with solving equations that have variables on both sides. Maybe they confused slope and y-intercept. Maybe they could factor when the leading coefficient was 1, but not when it changed. The more specific the reteach target is, the more useful the video will be. Second, keep the video short. A reteach video does not need to be 20 minutes long. In fact, shorter is usually better. A 5 to 8 minute video focused on one misconception can be much more effective than a long review over everything from the unit. Third, embed questions at key moments. Do not let students passively watch the entire explanation. Pause the video and ask them to do something with the information. You might ask, what step should come next? Why is this move allowed? Which answer choice shows the correct reasoning? What mistake did this student make? How would you explain this in your own words? These questions help students stay mentally engaged. Fourth, include a common error. This is one of my favorite reteach strategies. Instead of only showing students the correct process, show them an incorrect solution and ask them to find the mistake. In math, students often learn a lot by analyzing errors. When they can identify why a solution is wrong, they're more likely to recognize the same misconception in their own work. Fifth, provide immediate feedback. If a student answers a question incorrectly, the feedback should help them understand why. Instead of simply marking it wrong, we can add a note like, remember, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Or check the sign when moving a term across the equal sign. That quick feedback can stop a misconception before it becomes permanent. Finally, end with reflection. At the end of the Edpuzzle, ask students to reflect on their learning. This does not have to be complicated. They could answer, one mistake I made on the original assessment was, one thing I understand better now is, before I retest, I still need help with, my confidence level with this skill is. That reflection helps students take ownership of the retest process. Let's look at a quick classroom example. Imagine an Algebra 1 class has taken a unit test over linear relationships. Several students missed questions over identifying slope in the y-intercept from graphs, tables, and equations. A traditional retest process might ask students to correct the missed problems and complete extra practice. But some students may still not understand what slope represents, or how the y-intercept appears in different representations. An Edpuzzle Reteach lesson could target that exact misconception. The video might begin by reviewing slope as the rate of change, and y-intercept as the starting value. Then the teacher could model one graph, one table, and one equation. After the graph example, the video pauses and asks, what's the y-intercept, and how do you know? After the table example, it asks, what pattern shows the slope? After the equation example, it asks, in the equation y equals 3x plus 5, what does the 5 represent? Then the teacher could include common error, such as a student identifying the first number in a table as the slope instead of the starting value. Students would have to explain why the reasoning is incorrect. Before students retest, the teacher reviews the Edpuzzle data. If a student missed every question connected to tables, that student may need a small group reteach. If another student answered the questions correctly and explained their thinking clearly, that student may be ready to reassess. This makes the retest process more meaningful because the teacher is not just checking whether students completed something. The teacher is checking whether students are ready. Of course, Edpuzzle is not a magic fix. Students still need teacher interaction. They still need discourse. They still need written practice. They still need opportunities to ask questions and work problems by hand. But Edpuzzle can strengthen the reteach process by making it more focused, interactive, and data-informed. For teachers, it creates reusable reteach lessons for commonly missed standards. For teams, it supports consistency across a course. For students, it provides repeated exposure, immediate feedback, and a clearer path towards retesting. Most importantly, it shifts the purpose of retesting. Retesting should not simply be about giving students another chance to earn points. It should be about giving students another chance to learn. When used intentionally, Edpuzzle can move students from correction to understanding, and from temporary review to lasting retention. So, the next time students need to retest, I'd encourage you to pause and ask, what are they doing before the retest that actually helps them learn? If the answer is just corrections in another worksheet, maybe there's an opportunity to make the process more intentional. With a short video, embedded questions, immediate feedback, and a chance for reflection, Edpuzzle can help us create a reteach process that supports real understanding. Because our goal is not for just students to try again. Our goal is for students to understand better the next time.